Hello everybody, Dr. Shadi Ireifej here, board certified surgeon and chief of specialty, part owner of TrueCare for Pets in Studio City, Los Angeles, California. Thank you so much for tuning in to our podcast. We're going to be talking about a topic that I learned early on and then developed over the years. And it's somewhat related to veterinary medicine, but honestly, this is something that's probably just policies that you can live by through life, really, in any kind of professional environment. And the topic is going to be how to be a leader. And by no means am I trying to portray myself as a expert in this type of topic. And I just want you to hear me out from a standpoint of a veterinarian who's been a veterinarian for almost 13 years. And when we talk about how to be a leader, the reason why I bring this up is because a lot of veterinarians are not trained on how to be a leader. We're not trained in managerial skills. It's just not part of the veterinary curriculum. So I've noticed some really awesome ways to lead in the profession. I've seen some really horrific ways to lead, and I've worked for both. And now, of course, being part owner and chief of specialty and a boarded surgeon at TrueCare for Pets, I am one of the big decision makers in my facility. And I have many staff members that help contribute to us doing our jobs every single day and doing it well. And so they look up to me, and I have to be a leader. So we're going to talk about how to be a leader from the standpoint of how to actually lead. And by that, I mean there's two different ways that I've seen leaders lead. One is through respect, and the other is through fear. So fear is what you think about when you think about like a dictatorship, a tyrannical hierarchy, if that's even a hierarchy. You've got one person in charge who's ruling everybody else just because everybody else is afraid of them. And that's your typical tyrant, your dictator. And so fear usually works through some kind of force, physical or psychological, economical. So obviously in the work setting, we're looking at there being sort of a power struggle there, right? The person who's being the leader and who's leading through fear is using those staff members, subordinate staff members, or they're younger or inexperienced or whatever. They are making them do what they want to do, which is lead through the avenue of fear. The problem with fear is that first of all, it's a lazy way of leading, obviously. The second you realize if you're just a tyrant, everybody will do what you say. It's just a lazy way of doing it. And also, fear doesn't take into account anybody else's feelings or anyone else's thoughts, right? It's just a leader. It's whatever the leader wants to do, how they want to run the show, they're going to do it, and they're going to do it regardless of what you think about them. And they're going to do it with the stronghold of fear. Fear is also a selfish way of leading because all you're doing really is it's whatever you think should be done, how it should be done, why it should be done, how quickly it should be done, and just saying, everybody do this or else. Do this or else. Do this or else. Why? Because I'm the boss and because I can hurt you if you don't do what I want you to do. You'll lose your job, or you'll lose your benefits, or I'm going to cut your pay, or I'm going to embarrass you in front of the coworkers. I'm going to do whatever it takes that I have to do to make sure that you understand that I am in charge. That's ruling by fear. And then, of course, when fear works, and it works because you let it work, right? You as the ones that are the victims of this, you're letting this happen. You let it happen. What does it do? It gets stronger, right? So the leader that's leading by fear then gets reinforced that, hey, this fear thing really works. I can be a tyrant. They'll do what I tell them to do because they have to, because they're afraid. If they don't, I'll punish them. And then when they do what I tell them to do, because they're terrified of me, I'm going to get what I want because they're going to do what I want them to do. So fear becomes this sort of vicious cycle. And which is also why it kind of works with dictatorships, You have tyrants that are making everybody do their bidding out of fear. It's lazy. It's selfish, and it perpetuates the monster. So we can now move on then to leading by respect, which, as you can probably tell, is what I am attempting to argue for here. Leading by respect is much more difficult because it's not all about you, even though you're the leader, you're the person in charge, right? But you're trying to lead by respect, which means you're taking into account everybody else's opinions on a matter. Which means you have to talk to other people, listen to them, negotiate. You go back and forth and figure out what decision can we make here in this particular moment that'll satisfy everybody to the best of the ability to which I can satisfy them. That's leading by respect. You hear out people's thoughts and opinions. It takes collaboration. It takes compassion. You have to actually spend time, if you're trying to lead by respect, to get to know what everybody else likes and doesn't like. The beautiful thing about trying to lead with respect is that it's sustainable. Like, it'll last you a long time. It's one of those things where if you assume that leading by fear is lazy and sort of a short-term mentality, well, then obviously the polar opposite, which is leading by respect, is going to be much more sustainable. People will actually want to do what you're asking them to do because they respect you. It's a much healthier relationship. It'll help with your long-term goals. This is why at TrueCare for Pets we have support staff that have been there for years, because they understand that the way we lead is by respect. They're part of the process. No, they're not the boss. They're not the employers, right? They're not high up on the food chain. They're not top of the hierarchy. But you know what? They feel important because they are important. We make sure to make them important. So we as leaders, me being one of them, make sure that the support staff understands that their likes and dislikes, their opinions matter. And then they'll want to do whatever it is you ask them to do. They'll want to, because they're on your team. They have the same goals you do. So leading by fear versus leading by respect. I'm going to leave you with these thoughts, because I have worked now in 4 different specialty hospitals, and I've also flown around the country performing surgeries in other hospitals. And I've seen many, many different ways of trying to lead a workforce. And early on in my career, and this is probably a common error if veterinarians out there are listening, early in my career, I used fear more often than respect to try and be a leader, because it's the natural thing to do, right? It's just easy. It's all you know. You're a young leader. Now you're supposed to be managing these people. You've never done it before. No one's formally taught you how to do it. And now you're expected to lead them. Well, you easily go to fear. Do it because I told you to do it. Why are you questioning me? I thought I told you to do this already. And as you get deeper into the profession, into your career, as I did, I learned more and more that the response I was getting through leading by fear was not making me feel good, and it wasn't getting the job done. And people didn't want to work around that. They'd complain. They complain around behind your back because they don't want to work under a tyrant. Obviously, who does? And then as I got older, of course, and got more experience, then I started to learn how to lead by respect. And boy, that is a tough thing to learn. It's a tough thing to even realize that it's something that you should do. And it's a much harder thing to master. And I would say, honestly, it's almost unmasterable until you've been doing it for a long time. And I have not mastered it yet. Although I'm very, very good at it, I have not mastered it yet. It is tough. And as you get into the workforce, you get a newer generation of people, right? So obviously what you look at it online and you probably hear about in your practice, or you yourself are feeling it, are the millennial generation, right? It's just a different era of people. That's all. And so because it's a different era of people, in order to help be a leader for an entire generation of folks, it requires a different viewpoint. It's as simple as that. There's no good or bad. It's just a matter of you need to tailor your leadership skills to the staff that you are trying to lead. And if working with a 40-year-old is easy for you with using your leadership skills, but working with a 23-year-old you're finding it very difficult, well then clearly you have to change the method by which you lead. And that's where respect comes in. It's not just a matter of understanding that you can't be a tyrant. You have to actually mold the way you lead to the individual or individuals you are trying to lead. So my advice to young people who are trying to lead, who are being put in a managerial position, who now have folks underneath them that are looking up to them for direction, here's what I say to you. observe, watch your mentors. Watch the people who've been doing this for a long time and see how they lead. Decide if they lead by fear or by respect. And if they lead by fear, first of all, you're going to learn what not to do. And second of all, get out of there. You don't want to work in an environment where tyrants rule. If they're leading by respect, then memorize what they're doing, their body language, their gestures, the words they use, how they speak, when they speak. Watch them like a hawk. Take notes. Because that's the way you're going to learn how to lead appropriately. Let those people, those true leaders who lead by respect, let them influence how you behave so that when it comes to your time to lead, you know how it's done, how it can be done successfully. I guarantee you it is going to be so worthwhile because it's going to be difficult to learn, but I guarantee you if you go through the difficult learning period, you are going to have a team that stands behind you. They're loyal to you till the very end. They'll always get your back. They'll always be on your side. They're fighting for the same thing you're fighting for, which in my case is practicing state-of-the-art veterinary medicine. I need a team that believes in that as much as I believe in it. I need them to do it not only for the animals, not only for themselves, but for me and my practice. And the only way that's going to happen is they respect me. If they respect me, I can lead them. And if you can lead them, if you can lead an army of loyal people, nothing can stop you. The tyrants are going to have high turnover rates. They're going to have complaints. They're going to have complaints to the Better Business Bureau or Human Resources. They're just going to have people quit on them. They're never going to know what it's like to have a truly loyal team behind them. Whereas folks like myself who are conscientious of this fact and who lead by respect will have a team behind them that supports them. They're not afraid of giving me their opinion, of giving me their 2 cents, of telling me how they honestly feel, because they know that I'll take whatever it is that's bothering them, whatever their concerns are, and incorporate them into a new method of trying to lead. So I hope this helps you out. This is something that took me years to figure out, and I'm still learning. But once you figure it out, it'll change the way, it'll change your work environment. It will. Thank you so much for listening in. This is Dr. Shadi Ireifej, board-certified surgeon and chief of specialty and part owner of TrueCare for Pets in Studio City, Los Angeles, 24/7 emergency and specialty hospital. Feel free to email me any comments, concerns, inquiries. Do you have anything more to add to this? Do you have any topics you want me to review? Email me at TrueCare for Pets Pawcast. That's P-A-W Pawcast @gmail.com. Thank you so much, and you'll hear from us soon.